Hi, I'm Dave Paraskevich. I'm one of the customer assurance people here at the Behler-Young company. Today I'm going to do a tip on testing the inverter module, or the IPM, on a Bryant Midea Ductless mini split. Inverter seems to scare people a little bit because they don't know what it is, but it's actually fairly simple. All we need is a voltmeter and an ohm meter, and we can test the capacitors and the bipolar transistors, which are the heart of the inverter. Now, in the service manual, a P6 code on a multi-zone like this will indicate that I have an inverter problem. This troubleshooting manual can be found on HVAC Partners, or the branch can print it for you, or sometimes you can just Google the model number of the unit and you can pull it up. But in this case, we're basically going to just follow down this troubleshooting flow chart. One of the big flaws when somebody calls me up and says, I'll ask them, did you do this part? No, I skipped that. Well, don't skip a step, no matter how minor it is or how certain you are that that's not the problem. We're going to go step by step. All right, so the first thing we're going to look at is I'm going to look and see if I have incoming voltage. All right, so I'm going to go to my board here. I'm going to put my voltmeter on AC volts, and I'm going to go to L1 in and N in, which would be my 230, and I have 215 volts AC coming in. So the next thing I have to check is as I'm creating my DC voltage going through my capacitors, is I need to check my capacitors, all right, to see that I have my 300 volts DC. Now, the capacitors are the easiest place to find the positive and negative that they're going to talk about in the service manual. So I'm going to switch my voltmeter to DC volts, 600 volts, and I'm looking for about 300 volts DC. It's about 130, 140% of what the AC power is coming in, so somewhere in the 300 volt range. Again, the leads are polarity sensitive, so make sure your red's on red, your black's on black when we're dealing with DC voltage. And I'm going to go to the capacitors. Like I said, there's a positive and negative on the capacitor. Great place to check for voltage. So I'm going to put my red on positive, my black on negative, and I have 301 volts. I go to my other capacitor, I have 305 volts. I go to my third capacitor, and I also have my 300 volts. Now the capacitors are easy to find because there's a circle on the back of the board opposite the capacitor, and those two connections are where your positive and negative are. So we've just tested this inverter. The capacitors are good. We have our 300 volts. Now what we need to do is check the gate, bipolar gate transistors or the switches. All right, basically that's all they are, switches. So what we're going to do is, first thing I have to do is power down my unit. Now those capacitors we just talked about are going to hold a charge, 300 some volts DC. So we don't want to get poked by that. So we want to give this thing a few minutes for these capacitors to discharge. Now, if you're impatient like me, before you poke around in there, at least get your meter on there to confirm that yes, indeed, they did discharge. So in this case here, I go back to my capacitor to make sure my voltage has fallen off and that I've discharged my capacitors. All right, so I've taken the board out of the unit so you can see it. First thing I'm going to do is find my negative and positive. Just again, look for the capacitor circles. There's my positive, there's my negative. There's my compressor terminals, U, V, and W. Over in this corner is the terminals for my condenser fan, U, V, and W. So I'm going to take my meter, I'm going to put it on mega ohms. I'm going to take one of my leads and I'm going to go to the positive on my capacitor. Take the other lead, I'm going to go to W. 9.18, V 9.10, U 9.26. Now I'm going to take the lead that was on the positive, I'm going to move it over to the negative. And I'm going to do it again. W 9.22, V 9.16, U 9.33. So all 6 readings are pretty much consistent, 9.3 to 9.1. So that's telling us that the IPM module is good. If I look over over the corner here where my condenser fan motor terminals are, UVW, I can do a test there the same way. So this just indicated that yes, my transistors are working. When I checked my voltage here, I had my 300 volts, which indicated that my diode bridge is working. So all indication here is that this module is good. That's today's tip. My name is Dave Peruskevich. I'm with the Behler-Young company, and we're talking about Midea Bryant Ductless mini splits. Thank you.